Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name, and this is Ginny O Talks, the part of the channel where I talk about things in the creative community. And today I want to talk about authors and reviewers and what is going on. So, for those who aren't in the booktuber, book talk, bookstagram community or in the writing community on Twitter, what happened is like back in January, a author who I was assuming was either an indie author or a romance author went onto her Twitter and complained about a 2-star review and how it hurt her feelings. And so because this is an indie romance author, and if you write romance and indie, this is like the easiest category to get into. I guess a lot of her followers turned around and went after this poor book reviewer who had left this lady a 2.5-star review for her book. Now, I would be more detailed and be like, oh, let's go to Twitter and bring it all up and everything. That's not the type of person I am. And this is something I have seen repeatedly. This happens at least once a year to once every 6 months. Some author going out on Twitter and venting their emotions about a bad review, or their blog, or some type of social media, Facebook, if they have their own book talk, whatever. And then we get the invariable book reviewer response. We want authors to get out of our spaces. Now, I don't follow a lot of booktubers for precisely this reason. The drama between the book reviewers and the book authors is a little much for me, on top of having author on author and writing community drama. It's just like, whew. So I want to kind of take this time in this video to go through what the hell is happening, why is this happening, and I think probably it will take another couple videos for me to be like, okay, this is reviewing from the author's side, and what is the author's responsibilities here, and what actually makes a good review. But I kind of want to go through here in this one, why is this actually happening? So, the situation is, author writes a book. Author hopefully gets that book edited and shops it around either traditionally or whatever, or decides to look at different websites to publish their book, and decides to maybe indie publish, whatever, doesn't matter. The book gets published. Now comes the hard part, getting the reviews. Getting reviews is very hard. It's part of marketing. And if you are with a traditional book publisher, part of their job is to get you these reviews, to pay for BookFunnel and BookBub and put it up on NetGalley and send it to a list of people who read books at big important newspapers, and get it in front of the eyes of people at big librarians or book buyers. That's part of the traditional publisher's job. And the author might know or have a list of booktubers, book talkers, bookstagrammers that they know review and read their type of books. So they might be able to suggest or put it out of their own pocket that the publishing company send this book to these popular book reviewers on social media so that they can get some word of mouth going on about their book that looks more organic. And a lot of these are advanced reader copies. Usually an advanced reader copy is the final draft. And there should not be any like major editing going on, except, you know, maybe some minor grammar changes. And you have this whole thing where you get reviews coming in, and you're getting reviews coming in from, if you're traditionally published, you might be getting some reviews coming in from peer authors too. Like, and you know, you think, well, why are you getting reviews, you know, little blurbs on the front of your book from peer authors? And it's really kind of to help librarians a lot, or people who like reading specific authors. So they will look at the front of the book, and if it has an author they know and they like and they trust, they're more likely to pick up that book. But say, you know, Stephen King writes horror adult books. But what if, you know, your child is like, I really want to read a Stephen King book, but I'm not sure if I'm ready for Stephen King. You know, the librarian can be like, oh, this young adult book over here has a blurb from Stephen King on it, which means Stephen King liked and approved it. So they can give the teenager the young adult book, not written by Stephen King, but blurred by Stephen King, you know, given a little review, so that the teenager can be like, okay, book is potentially in the same style of Stephen King, and, you know, we'll have something more appropriate for his age group, you know, or at least marketed towards his age group, or things like that. And not all those reviews are going to be nice. Okay. Sometimes arcs go out and the responses to the arcs are so bad, the books get canceled because you have all these reviewers who get really upset about something in the book, which may or may not be, you know, reasonable. And the publisher is like, nope, this book has suddenly become toxic and we're gonna shut it down. And they just cancel the book. But if you don't have an ARC team, or if you're not a big person to be able to be like, approach these big social media people with your book, please read my book. Tell me what you think. Did you like it? You're putting your book out there and into the wild, into a customer base where anybody can pick it up, and it, you know, just randomly. And you don't know what type of reviews you're going to get back. And so when you're an author, you have to decide for yourself, you know, how much are you going to be time are you going to be spending reading the reviews when you could be writing your next book. So these reviewers are putting their thoughts out there. They're not thinking about the person behind the book, really. They're a customer. They bought a product, and they want to be able to tell their honest thoughts about that product to tell other customers, you know, whether or not they might like the product. And the author, who has spent hours and days and maybe years on this child, almost, is very emotionally involved, and they can't separate themselves from the art. And then they go on their social media, because they're not thinking of their book as a product. They're thinking of it as their artistic baby. And they go onto social media. So this reviewer has just left them this review about, you know, I don't like this book for reasons. And we'll talk about bad reviews later. And they get really upset. So they go on their social media and they vent about it. And then reviewers get mad because, oh no, now we have these people coming to our social media to yell at us for being mean to poor author. And the reviewers are just like, would you quit it? Will you just get out of our spaces? Would you not, you know, respond to reviews? This is very, very simple. We don't want you here. fact about me, or maybe not so little known, if you've been following this channel from the beginning, is I started this channel to review indie science fiction and fantasy books because I am an indie science fiction and fantasy writer, and I wanted to try to give my fellow indies more reviews and some more exposure. The reason I am not doing indie in science fiction and fantasy book reviews still is because wading through the indie science fiction and fantasy book field is not something I realized is going to be quite that overwhelming. And a lot of my indie book peers did not take this well, to put it mildly. So I was like, first I was like, okay, I'll just do 4 or 5 stars, and then that really started cutting down on the books that I could review, and I was just like, well, my health has hit a wall, and I have to stop for right now. I mean, I can't be reading 20 books a week to find a book I can review, you know, even at 5 chapters each. That's a lot of books, and I can't be... And I still have to write my own books and stuff like that, and, you know, and figure out what else I'm going to do with the channel if I can't find a book to review. A lot of work. You know, it's not like the traditional publishing industry where it's all curated for you. You have to go to Amazon, and it's algorithms, and we're going to talk about that later too. So, I mean, I get it. Okay, I'm sitting here kind of in this middle between where you've got the authors on one side and the reviewers on the other side, and you know, the reviewers do have a very good point. They don't want authors in their spaces. They don't want authors to respond because they feel like the authors have a lot more power than the reviewers. And that the authors are sending them a lot of negative attention. And then on the other side, you have the authors who are going, for various reasons, for pithy reasons, of reading the comments on how indie authors and regular authors justify reading their reviews is very crazy. Like, they're in there going, we have the right to read our own reviews, and a lot of them are doing it for editorial reasons. Others are doing it for, you know, is my marketing working correctly? That means you didn't do your marketing research in the first place. Not good. So there is a thing though here, though, that because traditional publishers are pulling back on their marketing dollars, it's more and more on authors to do the marketing for their own books. So we have to be there, out there in social media, creating these marketing plans and blurbing our books, and to do that, we have to go in and read our reviews. Now, I've had my own reactions to several of my reviews especially on Goodreads. I submitted both my first books to a contest, you know, looking for the best new indie science fiction and fantasy books, and it did not go well. But like, and these were from people who supposedly were reading, you know, lots of different books, and, you know, were really good book reviewers and whatever. And I'm, you know, I'm going in there and I'm reading the books, their reviews, and I'm like, were you skimming? I don't understand. Okay, you know, but I like did not go onto social media. I didn't call them out. I was just like, well, let me see if I can find something positive in your review, even if it's just the snippet, to use for my marketing on my website. And then for the long prospect, what that ended up was, she had a sentence and it said something like, Ginny O is trying to be the grittiest. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But that's really funny, so I'm going to take that. The grittiest. I'm going to take that, I'm going to put it on my website. be very amused. But like the less words there are, that usually means the worse the review was. But like we have to go in there and we have to be like, is there actually something in this review that we can use for marketing? So we have to be reading our reviews, or potentially, you know, asking our best friend or editor to read the reviews and be like, please tell me that this is not awful and it's not going to make me cry. And, you know, and so we're entering this kind of internet phase where here we are, we're on social media, where we all know way, way too much about each other. Nothing is private, nothing is sacred. And, you know, publishing companies are slashing their budgets for marketing. So we have to do our own marketing and be like shopping our book around to reviewers. And then we have to be like, oh my God, I need to like read these reviews so I can put marketing on my website or make a little, you know, the like little advertising things, like little pictures. And it can get really emotional. So, of course, because it's a social media age, we want to go on and we want to vent on it in our social media. And so, and then it creates this cycle and backlash of, you know, of people responding to each other until it blows up into this huge drama. So what we have to, and here's my thing about it. We're sharing the same spaces. Get over it. Seriously. If you are a book reviewer and you are on Twitter, or you're scrolling Twitter, or if you're like me, you're an author and you're on YouTube and I'm on BookTube, and you're on BookTube and you review my book, is quite likely I'm going to see it. And now it's on me whether or not I click on it. I might actually ask somebody else to click on it first. Bestie, help me. But we are sharing the same spaces. And we have to get over this. We have to realize or come up with some sort of parasocial etiquette that will let us get along in the same spaces. Because if you are an author, you have to be on Goodreads, supposedly. I ignore it, but I don't give a shit. If you're an author, you have to be on YouTube. If you're an author, publishers are saying you need to get on TikTok. If you're an author, you know, you might be on Bookstagram. Okay? Which is Instagram for books, if you were like confused. We're sharing these spaces. And we are coming up to a point where fan fiction and the parasocial networks and the netiquette of fan fiction has been around for over 20 years on the internet, okay? So, in fan fiction websites like fanfiction.net, like AO3, and websites like Wattpad or Royal Road, it is considered normal. And it's actually even encouraged in order to up your engagement and to create a sense of community for authors to respond to their comments, to create reviews. When I was a little fanfiction author on fanfiction.net in the early 2000s, every person that sent me a review that had a membership on fanfiction.net that wasn't anonymous, I eventually think turned those off once they allowed us to. It was anonymous. I would go to their, because there wasn't a reply feature back then, I would literally go to their profiles, and if they had their email listed in a way I could get to, I would literally send them a thank you email. Thanks for, love you, thanks for reading. Reviews are love, read the author, type of thing. And when I started doing it, and they eventually put in a messaging system, I would keep doing that. When I was active on fanfiction.net, I always tried to at least say thank you for reading to my reviewers. It's been 20 years. This has become standardized, normal. It's normal to do this on AO3. It is normal to do this on Wattpad. It is actually normal to do this on Royal Road for some reason. Now, not all authors do it, but many authors do. So authors, you know, indie authors or even trad authors who are coming from this section of the internet where responding to your reviewers is normal and encouraged, aren't going to necessarily see why it's bad right off the bat. You know, until some sort of drama blows up and they go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Because, you know, going to, it's like, well, I can't, it's an Amazon review. I can't respond on Amazon. So I'm just going to go to my social media and I'm going to respond there. Just like, no, you don't do that. But, you know, that'd be me like going, you know, coming from fanfiction.net, going to my live journal and writing a whole blog post about this reviewer who left me this review on my fanfiction, and oh my god, they were so wrong and so awful and so horrible. Go look at this. Like, you don't do that. But, you know, you've got a lot of people who just, we haven't created these social network netiquette rules in a defined way, you know, other than reactions, these emotional reactions of authors getting upset about a bad review, and they're allowed to be upset about a bad review. And you're like, well, they shouldn't go to social media. But that's what their social media is for. They're not thinking of themselves all the time as a published author whose social media is a product and a PR machine. I do, but that's because I know marketing. But they're just thinking, I'm a person and this is my social media and I should be able to say what I want on my social media. And so it blows up, and then we all of a sudden we're having this big argument, emotional argument about, you know, authors should not be in reviewer spaces. And it's just like, no, there aren't two spaces. There aren't two defined spaces anymore. We are all sharing the same space, and now we have to learn how to get along. I did go over this in my free to download PDF on my website, Ginny, the number 0, wordpress.com/books. Go down to the bottom, and it's called I Finished a Book, Now What? A tongue-in-cheek guide to what happens next. And I do have an entire section in the last third of it, I believe, that's all about social media and social media etiquette and things I have learned in my 20+ years on the internet. Oh god, I'm really dating myself, aren't I? In my 20+ years on the internet, watching the internet go from things like Yahoo groups, where I learned some of my very first very important lessons, and fanfiction.net, to LiveJournal, to Tumblr, to Twitter, to Instagram, that type of thing. Just these things that I have learned as someone who's been writing and in author spaces for a very, very long time, just how to juggle your social media on the internet, and, you know, what should be staying private and what shouldn't be. And just, we have to remember these barriers and walls that we used to have between each other have been breaking down a lot. And so it's human nature. And a lot of these social media programs run off of anger and, you know, negativity. And so we have to learn how to, you know, part of it is learning not to feed that negativity. And part of it is finding a good social network, a support group that you can turn to them instead of social media for validation. You know, bestie, this review, is it as awful as I think it is? Or am I just being overly emotionally invested in my artistic baby and I'm not taking it like a professional? So this is what's happening. Authors, you're gonna get bad reviews. Suck it up, that's life. Reviewers, authors are here to stay. Sorry. Get over it. We're gonna need to learn to get along. So take care of yourselves out there, my lovelies. Stay safe, bless, and I'll see you in the next video.